What's up, the generation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the National Championship betting preview and Final Four recap. I'm Stuckey, and joining me today, my fellow BBOC co-hosts, Mike Calabrese and Greg Waddell. It's the last episode of the year. I salute all of you who have been with us on another journey from the college football conference previews in July until now. They'll be here again before you know it. But this is the last episode. We had some optimism, boys, coming into the Final Four, and I think the Final Four delivered. Maybe I'm just saying that because Houston came back. What if they didn't? I would have come on here and said this tournament has been awful. So a little recency bias there. And Chad Baker Mazara coming through with four threes for me. I was the guy in the book cheering for the random three at the end. Someone's like, "What? Why is this guy cheering for this random three?" But I thought both games delivered. Greg, I'm going to start with you. Two questions for you. First, what were your thoughts on both games? And two, tell us about being in San Antonio for the Final Four. How was the crowd? How's the atmosphere? What was the split of fans? All of that.
It's been special. I told you guys coming in that I think I've tried to be the optimist throughout this madness list tournament on it's gonna pay off. And I think it did pay off last night. Now, Houston's heroics late made that worth it. If we just got a Duke blowout, we would have a more bitter taste in our mouth here. But no, it's our fourth year of being here, credentialed for these games. It's always an experience I feel fortunate for. But truthfully, this year just feels different. It feels like the caliber of each of these teams is so much higher than it has. The fan bases all showed out. Houston definitely ended up feeling like the hometown team, which makes sense. But I think they also got the added boost of everybody wants to see Duke lose. You've got
Yeah.
Florida fans sticking around. They showed out that are desperately hoping their team plays Houston and not Duke. And
Yep.
I think the youth for the Blue Devils kind of succumbed to that. It was a goosebumps filled experience for everybody in that arena down the stretch of that game last night. But it was high level hoops. I thought I really do feel like all four of these teams are national title caliber worthy if things broke their way. You saw good Auburn for 20 minutes last night. You saw good Duke for 35 minutes last night. And I still think we're in for a treat in the championship game too.
Yeah. What Duke Houston felt like to me was uh, obviously I'm still going to bring this up because I'm still bitter. Was Texas Tech Florida, where I was like Texas Tech this game they've won this game, and I felt like that as someone who had Houston. I remember I was like, okay, I have 5.5, 5. I was trying to figure out ways where we could pull an Ole Miss against Michigan State, right? Like, all right, how can we get the ball just down 7 with 8 seconds left and then hit a shot to get in the back door? Like that was what, and I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to bets. Didn't think Houston was going to win that game outright, and that, but it had the similar feel of like, oh, Duke, like Texas Tech has this game against Florida, and then you're just like, whoa, what happened? Similar feel in this game, like you're like, wait, what just happened in this game? That was awesome way to end the night, and then credit Florida, Clayton is just Steph Curry. At the end of games at this point, like just tip your cap. The shots he makes, like just clutch gene out of control. It's insane at this point. Credit to him. It's amazing that he was at Iona a couple years ago. Crazy. Calabrese, what were your thoughts on? Oh, but by the way, Greg, one more last question. You said this is their fourth year in a row you've done Final Four. I'll put you on the spot, but how would you rate all four just overall experience wise?
Ooh, this is definitely number one thus far. I hope we get a great game Monday that just pays it off for us. But if we do, it's bar none ahead of it. I think the Caleb Love Duke's got to be two. I mean, just that whole rivalry was still probably even a slight smidge above last night, just given how much the entire arena hated each other, and you knew it was
Yeah.
Coach K's last run at it. That's something you'll never replicate. It was tough because I thought UConn Purdue last year was like a great championship game, and on paper it was a great Purdue crowd. They were the two best teams. It was Edey, it was Klingon, but just how dominant UConn was sucked the life out of the arena both years. And
Yeah.
call me a mid-major hater if you want. I just did not enjoy the San Diego State Miami Final Four. it felt like we were watching non-top 25 teams there. So
What
yeah.
about arena-wise? Any major difference between San Antonio and
Not
the other?
really. I will say the Riverwalk experience downtown is phenomenal here. Like for Final Four destinations, you want something where there's restaurants, bars, everything in walking distance. There's sleeping arrangements, hotels all there. And if you have a hotel downtown, you're 5 minutes away from everything that you need the entire weekend. Like I know there a bunch of players were out last night. That's one of the funny parts of the Final Fours, right? Is when your season ends, you're just a regular human being now. You want to have some fun. Not to throw any names, but I think your guy that hit some tickets for you last night, Stuck, was having a nice time last night from the sounds of it. And
He
he said
deserves it. Deserves all the fun.
he walked off. This is Baker Mazar we're talking about, by the way. He walked off and said, "I did it for my island." I want him to know he did it for Degenerate Nation. That's what he did,
He
Stuck.
did it for
So
me. He actually played really well that entire game. Like just what his passes, his defense, he was locked in from the get. And I thought we were cooked because report comes out 40 minutes before the game. Hey, he tore a ligament in his thumb during practice this week. And Tracy Wilson is like he looks clearly hampered and bothered by it. And I'm like, of course, this is the guy I choose for a prop. Amazing. And then luckily he hit his second three, and I was like, all right, we got a chance. And he played very well. But Calabrese, what were your thoughts on the Final Four?
Well, starting with Auburn, Florida, I feel bad that Auburn didn't go down swinging with a full deck at everyone at 100%. Broom clearly was laboring through all of his injuries. And then one of the reasons why I liked Auburn so much the entire season was their depth. And you look at three of their guards in Jones, in Miles, in Pettiford, they did nothing. Like they were just absolute
Hediford
zeros.
was bad.
I mean, and
Bad game.
granted, he's a young kid. You're going to
Yep.
have games like that, but for someone that I liked watching play all year long, and I felt like he had that dog in him, and no, opportunity was too big for him. The lights never shone too bright, but yeah, he was bad. And then the Duke game. I mean, listen, I stuck my neck out there. I basically laid out the formula and said that if Duke gets into a close game, I don't believe in them, and people were chirping me all week. So sometimes it's more than just winning the bet, it's winning the exact narrative that you think is going to come out there. So that felt incredible. I let that wash over me. I was at a party. Everybody was rooting against Duke, even people that didn't have gambling interests, and they knew that was at least my theory on the game. So to see it come down to isolation ball for Cooper Flag, he misses that shot. The only thing I'll say, even though I was all in on Houston, I wanted them to win. I certainly wanted them to cover that foul on Cooper Flag. Like you're making that
Come
call in
on.
that
And the
situation.
refs I thought were great both games in the sense that neither was dictated by the refs, right? Like there was no, hey, why is this team in the bonus with 11 to go? That flag foul was, come on. Like
And
I can't.
and, and I agree, Stuck. It's like with a team like Houston that plays so aggressively, every single opportunity for contact, they're playing physically through, every single possession. It can be very difficult to officiate a game like that accurately for 40 minutes. I thought they did so, but yeah, that flag,
And they were letting things go the whole game. Like don't call that. You got to be consistent. But I did think the refs were good overall in the sense that I felt like I wasn't at one point being like, oh my God, stop with these calls, stop overtaking the game. But that was definitely a missed call. Uh, Flag, incredible season. I wish I was happier of Duke going down, like Duke getting upset and I had a bet. It was nice. Don't get me wrong, but this Duke we talked about it. This Duke team wasn't your typical. I hate this team. I hate the players on this team. I love Shire. Flag's awesome. They had a great season and uh, probably win that game 98 times out of 100 if they play it again in the way that it played out. And sometimes that's just the way college basketball games go at the end. But we are down to two. We have Houston and Florida. Florida is a 1.5 point favorite. Total has some books ticked up from 140.5 to 141.5. I could tell you I'm going to be on Houston right off the bat. I don't know. I don't know what the split of this game is going to be. Maybe it's close. I would assume people are going to slant towards Florida, but I don't know. Could be wrong on that. Greg, curious to get your thoughts, initial thoughts, what you like for the game. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one because maybe it's just being overcome by the end of that Duke game last night and feeling the crowd into it. But like my initial reaction was Houston as a slight dog here is almost too good to pass up. I've been in love with just the idea of Sampson's program finally getting over the hump. We all know March is an incredibly fickle beast. It's a fluky tournament. And he's had national championship worthy teams 5 consecutive years. To slay the dragon that is Duke in your home state, 3 hours from campus, just feels too good to be true. But the more I sit on this, I'm starting to think about the matchups. I'm starting to think about the best player on the floor. And it's starting to remind me a little bit of that Wisconsin team, 2015, that slayed the Dragon in Kentucky. And you just think, oh, they did it. They're over the hump. Orion's going to do it. And then you get to the final game, and there's just a more talented team waiting for you. I think I'm leaning Florida at this point, and I know it's not the most confident pitch from me, but you mentioned it, Stuck. Clayton has been unbelievable. He's the best player left in this field. He's probably been the best player this entire tournament, even when Auburn and Duke were here. I mean, he's on a Kemba Walker-esque run. I believe the number was back-to-back 30-point games in the Elite Eight onward for the first time since Larry Bird. Like, he's doing things that we've never seen since I've been alive. And the clutch gene is ridiculous. And he's done it Steph Curry fadeaways. He's done it getting to the free throw line. He's just made the big shots. He never wastes a possession when the game is in the balance. And I think about how Houston is going to, be able to use their physicality and try and target him. But they have small guards. And I don't think small guards are the way to get to Walter Clayton. I did spend probably too much time when Duke had a 10-point lead last night thinking about what would happen if they put Cooper Flagg on him. That's kind of the one thing that would have taken me off of Walter Clayton. I don't think Houston has an answer for him, quite frankly. And Florida's front court is a lot better than they get credit for. I mean, I think people have come around narratively on them this season, but seeing it in person, they're huge. They got 4 different guys that do 4 different things. Condon was really bad in the semifinal. I think he's going to bounce back. Hawk is a monster who's not afraid of physicality. So the more I sit on this, boys, I think Florida's the play. I would have had this as Florida -3. At Florida -1, I think I have to bet the Gators just on the money line and lay a little bit of juice.
I can't blame you. And look, margins are thin this time of year. It's a national title. I did think like the Duke Florida line was off. I mean, the Duke Houston line was off, but looking back, maybe it wasn't. Sometimes results don't always paint the whole picture, but yeah, I do think Houston could have some success in the offensive glass. They will, number one, they'll keep Florida out of transition. I always think that is a huge, one of the things I was worried about against Auburn is against Auburn, they're going to get transition opportunities. Not going to get that against Houston. I think that's goal number one when playing Florida. A little potential edge could be this Florida staff is awesome from an analytics standpoint, from a game prep standpoint. Houston's offense, and like it's pretty simple, right? You know what you're going to get. If you look at what Florida has done when they've had time to prepare this tournament versus the quick turnaround, right? UConn, quick turnaround, arguably should have lost. Texas Tech, quick turnaround, arguably should have lost. Now, quick turnaround might not be as big of an advantage as Florida usually has with their insane game planning and their staff, which doesn't get enough credit. So maybe that's a little edge in favor of Houston. I wouldn't blame anybody for backing either side here. And the difference might just be Clayton is on one right now. And the game's probably going to be close. It's Houston, Florida. These teams are awesome. And that just might end up being the difference. Calabrese, what are you seeing here?
In terms of prep, a look-ahead matchup, it wasn't 50-50. They weren't doing 50% prep on Houston, 50% prep on Duke. It was clear that they were figuring that they were going to get Duke. So I think that absolutely plays a part in this. When I look at it, though, like, yes, Walter Clayton has been phenomenal. I would be shocked if he didn't play at a high level again in this game. But they dug themselves holes time and time again in this tournament. Like, it wasn't just a one-off against UConn. Against Texas Tech, they dig a hole against Auburn, and they come out guns blazing in the second half and just blow them away. Houston has the formula to protect a lead. And just like I was saying with Duke, looking at that Clemson matchup that they lost, was their last loss of the entire season. Teams that play slow, teams that shoot really well from 3-point range, and have an elite defense. I'm looking for that direct comp, and Tennessee beat this Florida team by 20. Now, Florida won 2 out of 3 in the series, so certainly if they can impose their pace and get anything in transition, this could go sideways and they could win by double digits. That's absolutely on the table. But at least I have a direct comp, and Houston is clearly a much better version than Tennessee. So I'm going to go with a correlated event. I'm going to go under, and I'm going to go Houston money line. And I think if they strategically can get the ball out of Clayton's hands, even a handful of possessions where against any other defense he's allowed to cook and pull some of these rabbits out of his hat, which he's done time and time again in this tournament. Their whole defense is built around those traps and those double teams and forcing the ball out of guards and out of the hands of post players. So I think there's a chance. I understand from a size perspective that you look at it and you say, their guards being so small, that's not necessarily the way to bother Clayton. Made the same argument with Duke, where it's like Duke's starting entire team was huge. And they were still bothered in crunch time and important possessions in the second half and had turnovers and also forced them into shots that they wouldn't necessarily take if they're playing against a more passive defense, certainly a drop defense. So I'm going to go with Houston here. I'm going to roll with them again. Florida, I just think if they do what they've done this entire tournament and they dig a 8 or 10 point hole and Houston's grinding the game down and they want to play in the upper 50s and low 60s, I think they're finally going to get bit.
All right, another endorsement for Houston. Greg, are you just leaning Florida, you're going to end up playing them?
I think I'm going to end up playing them, but I mean, certainly hearing Calabrese go through the preparation standpoint too, I think it's a great point. It doesn't make me feel stronger in my case here. But I'm going to take myself from a lean to an official play. I just want to be aligned with Walter Clayton coming into this game. And if that leads to a loss, I'm okay.
All right, before we get to some player prop thoughts, it's time for a quick ad read about my guys from Edge Boost, who I love. If you are listening to the show, I know that you're probably like me and like betting as much as I do. And when it comes to betting, there are two things I'm always trying to do: make it easier and make it more profitable. That's why I've partnered with Edge Boost, the financial platform that pays you cash back to wager. Edge Boost is an online bank account that pays you for every deposit. Because with the Edge Boost Visa debit card, you get up to 0.5% cash back on all your sportsbook, daily fantasy site, and casino transactions. That's free money back in your pocket just for doing what you're already doing. It's a no-brainer. And I promise this isn't some credit card gimmick. It's what I thought when I first heard about Edge Boost, but I opened my own Edge Boost debit card account and it made it so much easier to deposit into all of my sportsbook accounts. And there's no catch, there's no hidden fees, there's no minimum balance requirements, none of that. And if you've ever had a casino transaction flagged by your bank because they thought it was suspicious, or you've been given the runaround when trying to fund a sportsbook account online, as I know most of you have, well, the Edge Boost debit card is the perfect tool to alleviate all of those issues. It starts with a $250,000 daily limit and will never be declined for gambling activity. It's why I was so happy to open an account. Have been so happy since. So make your betting life easier and stop leaving money on the table. Visit edgeboost.bet to sign up. And if you use promo code BBOC and deposit $25, you'll receive a $25 deposit match plus Tier 2 status for faster bank deposits and more cash back. That's edgeboost.bet, promo code BBOC. Swear by the guys at Edge Boost. Love it. So make sure you check it out. Hey, do you ever watch sports and find yourself wishing there was a way to get into the game? Well, with Underdog, there's finally a way to make picks on sports without leaving the house. The game is in your hands. To play, all you have to do is choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, like touchdowns, strikeouts, points scored, and more. They've got all of your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Just create entries with all basketball picks, or you can mix and match. Say it again. You can create entries with all basketball picks or mix and match across other sports and leagues. You can play with as little as $1. And if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into 1,000 just with your sports knowledge. Little Baker Mazara underdog entry last night. Never hurt anybody. So make sure you download the Underdog app and sign up now using the promo code BBOC to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with promo code BBOC. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text next step to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Make sure you check out the guys at Underdog. So, if you're going to do an Underdog entry tomorrow, some quick thoughts before we wrap this up. Greg, I'll start with you. Any quick leans on player props that you're looking at besides, or if you just want to endorse Mr. Clayton some more?
Yeah, I got two guys that are not Walter Clayton that I am going to sprinkle on from a prop perspective. One is Elijah Martin, and I can tell you just from seeing it in person, I thought his Final Four experience was a huge factor yesterday when Auburn was really jumping on Florida early. I thought Martin just paced them. He had 10 points in the first 10 minutes, finished with 17. He's a guy, had a huge scoring performance in their Final Four game against San Diego State 2 years ago, 26 points. I feel like he's a big game guy, and I think to Calabrese's point, if I'm Houston, I think the entire game plan here has to just be, how can we get the ball out of Clayton's hands? We will live with Elijah Martin. We will live with Will Richard beating us. Martin is the guy who I think will benefit from that if Houston is capable. I see plus 170 for him at 15 points, up to plus 380 for 18, plus 700 for 20. He doesn't have a 20-point game since all the way back on January 4th, so I wouldn't advise going big there, but I think I am going to do a small Elijah Martin points ladder in this game. And then just to hedge my side with Houston here, if Houston wins this game, to me it will be critical that Milos Uzan is good Milos Uzan. He has not been great. He has 2 straight really quiet performances. I think he's been really bothered by the physicality and the size that he saw from Tennessee and Duke. But he was stellar against Purdue. He's been great against teams like Arizona in the Big 12 tournament this year. He's a big game guy who was really playing phenomenal ball the final 2 months of the season. To me, he had plenty of opportunities against Duke, but they just kept going to Cryer, who was like unconscious in the second half. So to me, again, stack ranking this, if I'm trying to put myself in Todd Golden's shoes, I think they're going to be really focused on Cryer. I think they're probably going to try and use some size to bother Emmanuel Sharp and those pull-up threes. I think they're probably going to stick Walter Clayton on Uzan. And to me, Clayton is probably a lot more focused on carrying the offensive burden for this Florida team. I think sometimes he can get a little lackadaisical defensively. Uzan's going to have to match him on a possession-by-possession basis. He can score up to 20 points. His numbers are very similar to Elijah Martin's. I see it right now at plus 160, 15 points, plus 380, 18 points, plus 650, 20 points. So I'm going to put small ladders together, Elijah Martin, Milos Uzan points, and those will be my prop plays.
You brought up Elijah Martin's Final Four experience. We've had multiple guys. This kind of sums up the new landscape of college basketball. We've had multiple players this Final Four that have played in a Final Four for multiple teams. Before this year, only happened twice in the history of college basketball. Once I think in the 70s with someone on Duke and then someone on Carolina in the 80s. I could be wrong about that, but I know it only happened twice, once in the 70s, once in the 80s. Kind of the new world. And yeah, that experience could come in handy. Calabrese, what are you seeing from a player prop perspective? Good call. And I think Broom stayed under, right, on his total points and rebound assist.
Broom was far under on that one, and like I said, unfortunately, it's because he was banged up. He was laboring through. Greg beat me to the punch, but I'm going to go for the big swing with Uzan. I think he gets to 20 points, and it's plus, 650 out there in the market. You look at his shot volume in the second half of the season, went through the roof, scored 20 plus against Arizona in the Big 12 title game, scored 20 plus in the game winner against Purdue. So the offense can very naturally flow through him, and he can have opportunities. And I think this is a bit of a market overreaction to him disappearing against Duke. He also had 4 fouls, so he didn't get to his normal amount of minutes. Yes, Cryer was, a magnet to the ball late in the game, and rightfully so. But I think this is an opportunity to hop back on a player who could put up 6, 7, 8, 9 threes in this game. All of a sudden, when you get that kind of 3-point volume against a team like this in Florida, who, by the way, this is a little bit of my hedge. If it's a lower scoring game, I think Houston can win it. That's going to, benefit my parlay action in terms of the Cougs and under. But if it does become a faster up tempo game, the scoring's got to come from somebody. So I think it's going to be an opportunity to hit a huge one to end the season on. 6-1 and anywhere in that neighborhood really caught my attention. Some of these ladders can get really lucrative. So I'm on him to have a big night.
Well, Greg spoiled your party. You spoiled mine. I'm gonna have a little Baker Mazar run it back ladder 3 on Uzan. So we'll make it a consensus there. Calabrese and I like Houston. Greg likes Florida. Wouldn't blame anyone for taking either side. Margins are thin this time of the year. Let's just have an incredible game to cap off an incredible Final Four. That'll do it for us. I have to thank so many people. I won't get to them all, but just from Colin and I mean to Tanner, the 3-man weave guys, obviously Mike, Greg, all of the producers on the back end, our prop guys who I think we'll have a live prop show. If you're looking for more player prop insights, we'll probably have something with Kerner and or Nick on Monday if you're listening to this today. But everyone was awesome. Most importantly, I just need to thank all of you for tuning in every week, for sweating with us from college football until college basketball. I appreciate all of you. This show, this podcast wouldn't exist without all of you. I look forward to sweating college football and college basketball every single year. This is a labor of love, and I'm so lucky that I get to do this. And I appreciate every one of you. So I hope we close out the season on a strong suit with some winners. But thanks again. And college football previews will be here before we know it. And then college basketball will be starting up before we know it. Basically a year-round sport at this point with the transfer portal. But thanks again, gents. Thanks again to all of you. Make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. 5-star review. They really help us this time of the year. Do appreciate it. Good luck on the national title. And we will see you in the summer. Cheers.